Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello everyone, and a very good evening to all of you, and welcome to today's session. I'm Meenakshi Upadhyay, and I'm Bangalore alumni. I have been teaching for the CAT and the undergraduate aptitude exams like your IPMAT and other exams for CAT for more than 20 years now, and for these exams since they have come. So we've been there, and we've been authors for books like. The QA for CAT, Arun Sharma has authored, and you know him very well. 20 times CAT qualifier with a 99.9 plus percentile every time. And so we are both there today to help you analyze and resolve your issues with the IPMAT preparation process. So I'll hand over to Arun Sharma, sir.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the session. So a lot of you have been asking me about IPMAT on the YouTube channels also. So we thought that we'll do an open session about IPMAT preparation. And since the IPMAT exam is taken, I mean, of course, I am Indore and I am Rohtak take their own exams. And other IIMs, either they'll take it through the SAT or some other similar exam. There's a lot of activity happening at the IIMs with respect to taking +2 students directly for 5-year courses, etc. In fact, next couple of years, 2023, IIM Bangalore is also starting its liberal arts campus, so they will also have their, I guess, their own entrance exam that will allow people to from 12th standard or 12th class to directly take it for a graduation entry and doing for an undergraduate course, a graduation course from there. So a lot of activity happening in this space. And given the fact that most of you have never actually prepared or done anything on an aptitude exam, you need to understand a couple of things with respect to your aptitude tests and how you prepare for them. Right, so an aptitude test preparation is very different from your from the preparation that you do for your normal exams. For example, you guys have been mostly preparing for exams which are based on. Just give me a second. Yeah, so you have been mostly preparing for exams which are based on knowledge mostly, right? Whereas aptitude exams, etc., they have a very starting off. You need to understand the difference between how you what an aptitude exam requires you to do versus what a normal exam requires you to do. So what happens in a normal exam, even if it's a multiple choice exam, a normal knowledge-based exam, let's say something like the UPSC exam or any other knowledge-based exam where you got current affairs, etc. So what happens is when a question comes and hits your mind, what your mind does, essentially inside your mind, what it does, it basically retrieves information. The process is basically retrieval of information. So if you have the information, you can answer the question. You don't have the information, you can't do much. So you retrieve the information, you mark the answer, and you move out of the question. But in an aptitude exam, especially whether you're talking about language, reading comprehension, or quantitative aptitude, or logical reasoning, or data interpretation, these are the kinds of subjects that they're asking you. So when a question comes in front of you, information retrieval or formula retrieval might be part of it, but it's only 10% of what you do in solving a question. Retrieval of the knowledge of how to solve this question is just 10%. Even if you know what you've done, or even if you know that question beforehand, you are supposed to execute a series of steps to get to the answer. You're supposed to execute a series of steps before you get to the answer. And normally in any aptitude exam, these steps might be 2 or 3. And whether you can, I mean, there are 2 parts to it then when you talk about preparing for this for these aptitude exams, there are two parts to it. One is, do you have the steps to solve the question? And hence, so three questions actually. The given question that has come in front of you, do you have the steps to solve it? One, do you have the reactions to solve it? One. Second, are your reactions superior to what the reactions others have? Are your reactions, or let's put it another way, are your reactions to the question the best possible? Under the given circumstances. And the third thing that matters, very critical, is, are you able to execute it? Are you able to execute it to get to the correct answer? Because you might have okay on yes, I know what to do here. Yes, my reactions are pretty good in this, but you might make a silly error, or you might make some mistake in executing the question, in which case you'll not get the answer and you'll not get the marks. So when you prepare for an aptitude exam, you have to make sure that, I mean, essentially the process of preparation for an aptitude exam essentially is built around, one, identifying what kind of questions will come to me, right? So having a preview or a precursor view on this, and this you can do on various chapters in maths. So when you prepare for aptitude exams, I'm talking about quantitative aptitude, data interpretation, and logical reasoning here, which are the three critical areas of your exam, of the IPMAT exam. They all come under the QA part. So you have to have an exposure. So if you're picking up a chapter, let's say pick up a chapter like time, speed, distance, you have to have an exposure of the kind of questions that are going to be thrown at you, right? And then you have to learn at least one method to solve it. But very often in aptitude exams, you'll realize that individual questions have 2 or 3 methods to solve them. The same question have 2 or 3 methods to solve them, which is where this language comes in. Are your reactions the best possible? Do you have the best method to do that question? So the process basically involves understanding what questions are going to hit your mind, the kind of questions which are going to hit your mind, because if you have seen a question beforehand, and if you have worked it out beforehand, it becomes much easier in the aptitude exam. As ma'am was telling you guys, I have cracked the CAT 20 times, and my percentile is always 99.99, 99.98, 99.99, a few hundred percentiles section-wise also. So the biggest advantage I have when I take the CAT is that when the questions in quants, DI, or logical reasoning, when I face the questions, or when I see students facing questions, there are 4 kinds of reactions that you can have to a question in aptitude. The first reaction could be, I know this question. ये वाला question तो मैंने किया हुआ है. I know this question. The second reaction could be, I know this logic. So I've done something similar. I've not done this exact question, but I've done something similar, so I'll be able to execute this. The third reaction can be, I have done the chapter. I know the theory, so I can try this. And the fourth reaction would be that I have no idea. Now these 4 reactions, of course, the fourth one is dangerous, but the most dangerous of these 4 reactions, the most difficult of these 4 reactions, and the most to be avoided reaction is this one. Because when you end up trying a question under aptitude, because you know the theory, but you've not done a question like that, or you've not done that logic, what happens is that it ends up taking a lot of time for trial. Now imagine the IPMAT structure, the exam structure, whether you're talking about I am Rohtak or I am Indore, pretty much it's 40 questions, 40 minutes to kind of situation. I mean, I am Indore, you've got 2 sections of quantitative aptitude, and that these include DI and LR also. So one section is the MCQ section, which is 40 questions, 40 minutes. 40 questions, 40 minutes. And the other one is the non-MCQ, short answer type questions, where you don't have any options. And this is 20 questions, 40 minutes. So imagine 40 questions, 40 minutes. You barely have 1 minute to read and finish the question off. Now, उसमें अगर तुम ट्रायल में जाओगे कि चलो ट्राई करके देखते हैं, so the outcome of trials will be very poor, because if you're under pressure, if you try 10 questions, the average time of trial of a question will be maybe 2 to 2.5 minutes. And if you are going to take 20 to 25 minutes in 10 questions, in trying 10 questions exam, and out of those 20 25 questions, let's say out of these 10 questions, maybe because you don't know these questions, under pressure you'll be able to pull some questions through, you'll not be able to pull some questions through. Let's say you've got a solved 5, incorrect, 8 attempted 8, got 5 correct, got 3 wrong, and 2 you could not attempt. If this is the outcome, your IPMAT has +4 -1 as the net scores. So out of a 160 mark section, in 20-25 minutes, you're barely scoring 17 marks. Right? So what happens is that the remaining 15 to 20 minutes ke andar, your target, typical target. Now see, when you talk about generic aptitude, and this is the thumb rule, if you can score net score, normally there are 2 kinds of aptitude exams. World over, you can talk about this world over. One kind of aptitude exam is where the questions are very tough questions. That under that category you get exams like CAT and ZAT. So as an exam, even if you score 40-45% of the net score, you are amongst the toppers in the exam. You'll be in the 99 percentile category, the top 1% of the people taking the exam. The other exams are exams which are tough. They're not easy exams, because the competition is what makes the aptitude exam tough. But the other exams are where the questions are easy. Questions are single liners, questions are easy. And in fact, CAT also used to be like that 20-25 years ago, where CAT, if I remember correctly, during our times, CAT used to be 120 minutes, 180 questions. So it was even faster than what you face these days. It was, I mean, typical, and very much what you need to do for IPMAT is preparation for the kind of CAT we used to prepare for. When the questions become easy, at that time our focus used to be to score 60 to 70% marks. So it was well understood that out of 180, if you can score 120 plus, you will definitely get calls from the IIMs. IIM, ABCL, all of them will call you. So similarly, in your exam, because the questions are the easier side, they are not very twisted, not very difficult questions, and most of the questions will be typically, if you pick up a chapter, for example, I was talking about time, speed, distance. If you pick up the first 200 questions of time, speed, distance and practice them and solve them, you will typically come across most of the questions that will come in your IPMAT for the next 3 to 5 years. You will have either an idea of the question itself, or you'll know the logic. So in exams, your target shifts to 60 to 75% of the net score. If you want to top the exam, you want to be all India rank 1, you will need to get closer to this one. But I think around 60%, 55-60% of net score is also enough. So when that means in a 120-minute exam with 40 questions on quantitative aptitude and MCQ basis, 20 questions of quantitative aptitude on short answer basis, and 40 questions on verbal ability and reading comprehension, you basically have a 400-mark exam. So you have to try to look at, I mean, see, 50-55 ke baad, you get into serious competition. So your targets have to be how quickly can you hit the 200s score wise, and then can you pull your score up to 250s, 270s. Because if you can get there, then nobody's stopping you. You are getting through. You're amongst the toppers at this range. Maybe 220, 230 will get you qualified, but your preparation should be focused towards trying to get to 250, 270. That is the whole idea. Now, having said that, I think syllabus is pretty easily visible. available all over the place for IPMAT maths. Most of you can use my books. मेरे books के अलावा तुम लोग को शायद some higher maths chapters come. And actually, you name the higher maths chapters which come?
Just a moment, I'll tell you. So
Yeah.
the normal questions are there, like those number systems and all that we already know. I'll just quickly tell you the name of the chapters.
I think something is a little bit of matrices and functions.
We have, yeah, just a moment. I'm just coming to that. So we have questions like here, just okay, sorry, I just lost it here.
Yeah, I think a little bit of trigonometry also sometimes.
Yeah, so we have percentage, profit and loss, number system, average, and then so these are the normal chapters that keep on coming. But for the extra chapters that we have, that we have matrices, and then we have higher maths also. So that has to be looked at. We have determinant, we have logarithm, functions, permutation, combination, probability, geometry, TSD, and arithmetic. That is what came last year. And we had then DI interpretation, we had set, progressions, logarithm, probability, set based matrices, trigonometry, and geometry and number system. These were the extra question types.
So just 3 chapters. Outside my quants book, I think there's 3 chapters is what you need to do. और quants book में भी LOD 1 करो ज़्यादा. LOD 2 के easy questions कर लेना बस. If you're using my quants book pure for CAT, then LOD 2 easy questions. Don't go for the very tough questions.
There was vectors and integration, differentiation, which has come not last year but other years also.
But given the fact that you will not attempt all 40 questions anyway, right? Unless you know those chapters, you already are. And the problem with these higher maths chapters is these are not quick solving. You need to do a lot of writing. और ये जो aptitude maths का part होता है, जो averages, allegation, percentages, etc. Aptitude maths का जो part होता है, that is the actual quick solve. You can get options through questions through options. You can solve through options. You've got many methods to do it. You can reduce your writing, and ultimately, when you're talking about improving your speed in solving maths or DI or reasoning, there are 3 main fundamentals of increasing speed, and a fourth one which all of you obviously know about. But the first 3, which I think more important than the fourth one, in terms of speed, how do you gain speed in your solving? How do you gain speed in your solving? Usme the maximum importance is here. And the fourth one is tricks and techniques, which is not so critical to know tricks and techniques for every question type. You have to know at least one way of solving, as I said. Then you have to learn how to solve it quickly, in spite of the fact that your trick or your technique might not be the best in that situation. Of course, by all means, do go after tricks and techniques, and we'll also in our course we'll teach you methods and tricks and techniques for various chapters. But the game is not going to be won or lost here. The game is won or lost here. And what are these 3 sources of speed? The first source of speed here is solving during your first reading. Solving a question during your first reading. This will go against your basic instinct that you have right now, where your school teachers have told you in maths कि 2 बार question पढ़ लो और फिर solve करना start करो. Question को समझ लो उसके बाद solve करना start करो. Aptitude exam में तुम्हारे पास दूसरे बार पढ़ने का तो time ही नहीं है, और पहले बार पढ़ने के बाद अगर start करोगे तो भी you will be behind other people. So you have to learn how to solve questions during your first reading. That's one. The second part of it is that you have to reduce your writing. You have to reduce the writing while solving these questions. You have to reduce the amount you write. And because the more you write, the more dead time you have in your solving. And the third source of your of improving your chances that at these aptitude exams is calculation techniques, improving your calculations. So these are the three major sources of speed, and you have to work on these three. In every chapter, you have to work. You have to build your reflexes in such a way that you can start solving. So you don't need to read. For example, if a time speed distance question tells me that a man travels for 12 hours at 70 kilometers per hour, I don't need to read the whole question ahead कि आगे क्या पूछ रहा है, to calculate 12 into 70, because this is the natural reaction to this statement. So that calculation should be done during your first solving. You should know that he has traveled 840 kilometers. So this is the trigger and this is the reaction to it. So inside the question, when you read the question, you'll keep getting your triggers. You have to keep building your reactions, and maybe towards the end of the session, if we got time, I'll put up some this thing. Today's maybe a couple of shortcut methods I'll show you. But today is mostly a strategy session and introduction to the course we are doing for at Mindworks on IPMAT. So that is what I want to talk to you about on the starting point. Now the process chapter wise, when you do, as I said, you for each of these chapters, whatever chapters you have, basically the chapters that you look for are number systems, progressions, pretty much mostly what my quants book gives you. Then you got averages, alligation. This is the maths portion. Average, alligation, percentage, ratio, proportion, time and work, time, speed, distance, interest, profit and loss. This is your arithmetic area. Then you got geometry and mensuration. And then you got functions, inequalities, logs, and quadratic equations. This is your higher maths mostly, apart from the higher maths that ma'am was talking about, matrices, determinants, etc. And then you got permutation, combination, and probability. So these are the and set theory. These are the 15, 17, 18 chapters that you have to study. But the emphasis will be more on this because this is going to be the area on which you can max your scores. As also a lot of questions, the higher weightage will come on these. At the same time, you're trying to cover all this also because you know the pattern keeps changing, the emphasis keeps changing. From 1 year where the paper is heavy on this area, the next year the paper can go heavy on this area. So but the main part is that you don't need to do a PhD in each of these chapters. 150 questions on each chapter is enough. 150 questions, as I said, LOD 1 and the easy question of LOD 2. When you go into the LOD 2 of my books, you'll find some very tough questions also there. So you can just skip those. Just the normal easy questions, because it's a 1 minute per question exam. I cannot give you very tough questions. So that is what I have to ensure. So if you go back, if you want to practice, if you go back, as I told you, the CAT in the 1990s, 1990 to 1998, it was very symptomatic of the kind of exam your IPMAT will be. So this is you had one-liner, single-liner questions. If you knew what to do in it, 2 steps, and you're through with it. If your calculations are good, you are good to go there. Right, and then of course, apart from that, you also have to do a little bit of LR. LR, of course, is a complete section in IPMAT Rohtak's exam. So LR mostly you have to focus on puzzles, mostly on puzzles, because that's what will be the overarching theme in that. But then there are, if you go into LR deep for banking kind of exams and CAT and ZAT kind of exams, so to these 25 question types हो जाते हैं. But you guys can focus on puzzles mostly because this will be the overarching type, and maybe just do a little bit. I mean, basically puzzles. There are 5 kinds of puzzles, 5 different themes of puzzles in my LR book. One is arrangement-based puzzles. Second is theme formation-based puzzles. Third is selection, team formation or selection based puzzle. Third is ranking based puzzles. Fourth is numerical puzzles or quantitative, what I call as quantitative reasoning. And the fifth and last one is kind of puzzles are generic matching puzzles. So you just focus on these 5 kinds of puzzles, and then maybe just do a little bit of the other question types like syllogisms, sequence series, because sometimes you'll also get questions on these kind of things. Direction test, blood relations, right? And what else? Logical deductions.
Yeah, then there is
So
coding
these,
and cubes, also statement conclusion and strong and
yeah,
weak arguments, course of action,
statement,
and critical
statement
reasoning, which is part of your verbal reasoning also.
and critical reasoning, which is also part of verbal reasoning. So this is what you will need to do for reasoning. Right. So Meenakshi, you want to take over the screen and go into
Yeah, I'll
the
go over for the verbal and reading comprehension part. So yeah, can you just make me the presenter?
yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah, so hi everyone, and since you know that I mean, if you're preparing for IPMAT now, you don't have a lot of time, so you have to prepare very, very smartly. And if you are in for a long-term preparation process, then in that case, you'll have to look at it in a little bit more detail. So looking at, and Kaushal, your hand is raised. You can just put in your question in the where there is a question mark in the dashboard. You can just put your question. So the as you know, the syllabus, sorry, the exam structure is of 2 hours, 120 minutes. We have 20 questions for your short answers, which is part of your QA mostly, which are mostly without options. And in that you get 40 minutes. The time is divided. You have 40 minutes for the normal quantitative aptitude, which is the MCQ base, which is, you know, with options. That's again 40 questions. And we have verbal ability, which is verbal ability plus reading comprehension, and again 40 minutes with 40 questions. Now last year, because of the COVID, the exam was of a shorter duration, 90 minutes and lesser questions. And we saw in the verbal ability also, there were 3 questions which were without options, the parajumbles, just like they give in the CAT. So, you know, for the verbal ability, my CAT book and the CAT book that I have written with Arun Sharma sir, that becomes very, very relevant to all of you. We've got the TETA questions there. We've got the basic, all basic question types. But as sir was saying, that since we have got barely 1 minute per question, as you can see, so in that case, or 1 point, you know, you just got 100 minutes, 100 questions here and 120 minutes, so barely over 1 minute per question. So in that case, the questions will be slightly easier than that is there for the CAT. So if you have our books for verbal ability and reading comprehension and for other chapters, if you are doing level 1 LOD 1, I think that should suffice. But for your vocabulary and for comprehension, you know, just do all the questions. That'll be really good for you. So vocabulary ke liye, you don't need to go and do anything extra. uh, the book has got 3 chapters, which is the first chapter in verbal ability is high frequency, medium frequency and low frequency. Then we have the root words, which again is a very favorite of the IPMAT, the root words. And we've got similar kinds of words, so words often confused. We have chapters on fill in the blanks, parajumbles, sentence completion, sentence correction. So, you know, whatever you need, the book has it. Extra ke liye, maybe for spelling and idioms, you can just, you know, download the Oxford Dictionary of Idioms and the Oxford Dictionary of Phrasal Verbs, etc. for extra input if you are for long term. If you are doing it for short term, you can just do it from the books. Idioms and phrases you can just do, you know, the PDFs are available, and obviously we'll be providing you material also. But if you're doing it on your own, then just download from somewhere and do the idioms part. Otherwise everything else is covered. The grammar part, which is there, which talks about sentence correction, is very much on the types that come in the ZAT or the this IFT or something, the papers like that, or the GMAT type. So there's one sentence written in 4 different types, and you have to find the right answer. So that is there. Now, since the parajumble was without option this year, I mean last year, 2020, so be prepared for some questions without options, especially the parajumbles. Other questions will have options. Comprehension will always have options. So don't worry about that, it will be very, very difficult. It will be solvable. See, even if the question is without options, not to be scared, because that's what I tell my CAT students also, that if you are confused between ABCD and BACD, and you don't have an option, right? So you are confused, I should mark BACD or ABCD, right? So between AB and BA you are confused. Now if you had options and both the options were there, then what use is the option? Because it is again having those two options which you were confused with. So not having an option in a parajumble is just a psychological pressure that the exam puts on you, and it is very easily solvable with or without the option. So not to worry. We saw the paper last year. It was not so difficult. So you can solve, even if you just do the level 1 from our book, that's more than enough. And we've got some theta based questions in the book also based on this level. So ultimately, see, you are going to be, when you pass out of the IP, when you pass out of an IM Indore or IM Rohtak, in that case you will be equivalent to IM graduates who give the CAT and come out of it. So obviously you are much younger than the person who's going to give the CAT, but they want you to go through a similar process, so that people don't look down upon the IPM graduates rather than the ones who are done the PGP program, which is the postgraduate program, which is the normal IM program. So therefore they want to equalize it in the kinds of question types, in the kind of entry level exams, a slightly lower level, but more or less the same kind of rigor that goes into the CAT goes into the IPM, as we call it. So you don't need to be very scared, but yes, what will you focus on? Word level questions like synonyms, antonyms, idioms and phrases, the root words, analogies. These are there in the book. You can just focus on those and do the past papers, and that's enough. The foreign words chapter is also there, and which is there part of the root words. Then the errors, common errors, which you have to do. So the list of common errors and everything is there in the book. Just go through it, and for just doing your parts of speech, you can use Renan Martin or any other standard book that you were referring to in school. They will never ask you the rules of grammar. They will ask you error based on those. So you don't have to say why this is wrong. You just have to know this is wrong or this is right and mark the right answer. So if, even in subject verb agreement or something like that, they will give you a sentence and say whether the sentence is right or wrong, or which of them is correct. So you have to just see and the common errors that are there, and mark it accordingly. So this is there. Then in reading comprehension, the passages are normally 300 to 500 words. So semi-short passages with 5 or 6 questions. What we've seen in the last 2 years, 1 year there was, because last year the number of questions was less because the exam was only of 90 minutes. So therefore, what they did was there was only one comprehension, but normally you have 2 passages with 6 questions or 5 questions. So around 10 to 12 questions of comprehension is what you will expect. And 3 questions were from parajumble. So make sure you're doing your parajumbles also. 3 to 5 questions from your fill in the blanks, which is very important, sentence completion also it is called. And then you have got grammar based questions, phrasal verb based questions, idiom based questions, the right idiom. So fill in the blanks could be with idioms or with phrasal verbs, etc. Fill in the blanks could also be with word levels. Then analogies, cat is to dog as this is, or cat is to kitten as dog is to puppy. So relationships between each other, these are your analogies. Again, the chapter and the theory is there in the book if you are learning it on your own. If you're with us, obviously we'll be teaching you all of that. So this is the basic chapter. And word usage based question, which is the correct usage. So you'll be given like delight, and 4 sentences with delight. I was delighted to see my mother after she came out of quarantine. I was delighted with the food that she cooked for us. It gives me a lot of delight about XYZ, whatever. 4 sentences, and you have to pick up either 3 of them will be wrong, 1 will be right, or 1 will be wrong and all the others will be right. So that's the kind of word usage. And synonyms, which you know, similar words you might have to mark. Antonyms are opposite words, so again you might have to pick and choose. So these are the kinds of questions. And this is your the mathematics part, which sir has already talked about. Now when we come to this one, which is I am Rohtak, in that what happens is, again you have 120 questions here, and 1 minute per questions, 40 40 40 minutes. And here the quants is same as I am Indore. So again you have number system, averages, percentages, and all of these chapters. As you can see, you can take a screenshot also if you want. And the extra part is your, as you can see on my extreme right, the different which is there, the different questions which are there are part of your logical reasoning, which might have inference, judgment, the logical series, coding, arrangements, blood relations, input output, the Venn diagram, binary logic, in which one person tells the truth, one person tells lies, you know, those kinds of, so double related questions. And then syllogisms, in which there is all cats are dogs, no cat is dog, you know, that kind of a question. Then statement conclusions, you'll have a statement given and two conclusions given, only one follows, only two follows, both of them follow, and stuff like that. Or courses of action. Now courses of action, and then you can see critical reasoning at the end, which is part of your verbal reasoning also. So this part is similar to, again we will be teaching in the IPM for the I'm Indore also, and for this also. And as you can see, the English part is more or less the same. So we have the same chapters, and word level, the grammar part, comprehension, and critical reasoning, parajumbles are the important ones. So this is in very short the exam pattern and the syllabus. Now if you have our book, I think that is enough for English. For basic grammar, you might the sentence correction chapter is also there. Just for basic grammar, you know, your subject verb agreement, stuff like that, Ren and Martin is a good source. You can just see the theory part, but focus more on the sentence correction, because that is what is going to come in the exam. Okay, so now the pattern is +4 for every correct answer and -1 for every wrong answer. But in the questions which have no options, in the short answer questions, etc., there is no negative marking. So you can do a little bit of guesswork also. And the English part, since some of you are good in English, the cutoff goes a little higher than the quants, which is normally seen. So in quants, as I was saying, 50-60%. Also, if you're solving, that's good enough. Because of the higher maths, as you can see, these chapters like the vectors and determinants, and so you know, for 3 to 5 questions might be there from these chapters at the most in total. So that is what, you know, lowers down the cutoff. But in English, the cutoff goes a little higher. 60 to 70% solving is what you should be doing. So out of 40 questions, we would want you to be attempting at least 25-30 questions correctly. Okay, now try to see the whole paper when you're solving. That is one strategy that is very, very important, because in the middle there are easier questions. Now see, you might be taking a long time solving the comprehension, so try to do the word level questions. If you find it easier, try to attempt them first, because you'll get more you'll get equal number of marks, whether you're attempting a comprehension or whether you're attempting a verbal. The time taken to solve a fill in the blank is much shorter than the time taken to solve a comprehension. Having said that, I'm not saying that you don't solve comprehension, but solve comprehension somewhere in the middle. The 40 minutes that you get, first 15 minutes, try to, you know, solve your the English easy questions, the one liners, in which you just read solve. They'll just take a couple of seconds, so that you can save your time for the comprehension in the middle. So then so first 10-15 minutes for your verbal, then you give your 10 minutes for the first the to comprehend, 12 minutes, and then the remaining part you again get around 10 minutes, which will be for your the verbal. Again you go back. So switching between the sections is not possible because the time limit is defined, but you can at least switch in the questions between the same section. So in that case, verbal, then comprehension, and then back to verbal. This should be the strategy, because what we have seen, if you start with comprehension, you feel, oh, I've got a lot of time, and then 25 minutes, 30 minutes you finish, you take in your comprehension. Then you suddenly realize, oh my God, I've spent so much time. So it's a better idea, 10-12 minutes pehle verbal. Try to maximize your score as much as you can, the questions that you know, quickly. The ones that you are like, okay, I can try, leave it as of now. The ones you are like, I know this, please attempt that. And then move on to comprehension. In that, mostly the questions are, straightforward. Some of them will be inference based. तो inference वाला एक दो छोड़ भी दिया तो चलेगा. Direct questions फटाफट कर लेना. अगर time है, if you've understood the passage, then you can do the inference question also. And then go back to verbal again. The questions which you have like left, okay, this kind I know, but it might take a little time, that you might attempt. Or if you want to attempt, if there is a theta meaning type in the answer, means it is a question without options. So if that question type is there, that will have no negative marking at the end. If you want to guess, you can guess with 2-3 questions of those. So that's in a nutshell, if you are preparing by your own self, how to strategize your paper and how to attempt. Okay, so Sharma sir, would you
something very similar in the maths part also. When you're doing your quantitative aptitude part in the option-based area and MCQ part, your first target should be to get 20 solid attempts in 20 questions that you have solved, that you have solved. You know that this is the answer. You might make a mistake in 1 or 2 of them, but at least 17-18 वहाँ से correct अगर हो गया, so then you can have some maybe 5-7 educated guesses also. And if let's say 40-50% of them go correct, you're ending up with 22-23 correct answers out of 40. That'll get you to the 90 plus score that you're looking for. So the first target has to be to get to 20. When you talk about 20 questions solved out of 40, and then 10 questions the short answer type. So typically you're talking about 1 in 2. So what you need to understand is that much as important as being able to solve questions, also it's very important in aptitude exam to be able to leave questions. So leaving is even more important than solving. So if you remember that framework I gave you, four reactions you have to a question. I know this question, please go ahead and solve it immediately. I know this logic, hence I think I know this question, I'll be able to pull this through. Go ahead and solve it immediately. I have studied this chapter, so I can try this question, quit that immediately. And I have no idea, obviously you will quit that, you will not try that, right? So the first focus has to be to get through all the questions, and you will not get a second time to come back to the questions. So broadly, if you can manage to, I mean, at various times in the exam, you have to keep looking at, are you able to manage an average attempt of 1.1 to 1.2, maybe 1.3 questions out of every 2 questions. So at 5 questions, if you have solved 3 out of 5 questions, you have solved 3. You are approximately 60% of the questions you're solving. That means if you can maintain that rate, then 40 questions you will solve 24. Right? And as I said, the solving part, how much are you able to maintain? And this is something you'll also try to practice during your practice. You'll also try to see out of every 5 questions that you're doing on a chapter, individual chapters से तुम break करोगे. तो कि वो 5 कोई भी chapter अगर तुम्हारा 3 out of 5 plus है, तो वो chapter तुमको selection के पास ले जा रहा है. If any chapter in which you can't do under pressure, of course, you can't do more than 2 and 2.5, then that is pulling you down. So you have to make sure that when you study individual chapters, you can get to the point where at least 3 out of the 5 you can do on your own. And then obviously self-practice is very important during your preparation. There are 2 parts to your preparation. One is assisted solving, where you look at, if you join a course, we'll give you a lot of assisted solving also. You look at how questions are solved and how teachers solve it, and there'll be doubt clearing sessions, etc. from our side, which will help you in your assisted problem solving. But bottom line, ultimately after that, you have to solve on every chapter. You have to make sure that you solve 100, 150 questions on average, right? So even if you leave out the higher maths 2-3 chapters, or you just do that to the point where the really simple questions you can do there, integration, differentiation, etc. If you have studied them, then you will already know them anyway. अगर नहीं पढ़ेगा तो I don't advise, especially in a 2 months framework for those of you going for IPMAT 2021. If you're going for a long-term course, तब तुम पढ़ सकते हो उसको. 2022 IPMAT के लिए जा रहे हो तो you can study. But if you have not studied higher maths in +2 and then you need to study it now, it's better that you keep them in the 3-5 questions. You just assume that your paper will come out of 35-37 questions, and do the other chapters and make sure that you do. So around 15-17 chapters हैं आपके, 100 questions per chapter, 1500 questions का game है. So during your practice, you have to make sure that you do 1500 questions on your own, not the assisted. Assisted problem solving is separate. 1500 questions on your own you have to do. 100 questions per chapter, 125 questions per chapter average रखो. and you should be ready for this exam. And very important part of the exam is that you also should be working on your mock test. You need to take at least 10-12 mocks during your preparation journey, because it's very different solving under time pressure and solving in practice. So you need to, as you understand, and when you do your mock test, you'll start understanding what your scores are. So you need to fight with your scores to get them up to that magic 60-65% net score after negatives, right? So that is how you this thing. And then of course you will also create strategic balances, like I mean, if you're looking at a 220 score, one way to score 220 is 110. One way to score 220 is you score out of the 60, out of 240 marks in maths, 40 marks in the 40 questions in the MCQ type, and 20 questions in the short answer type. Out of 240 marks, you can score, let's say, 120 there. If you can score 120 out of 240 there, then your target in English becomes 100. But if you can score 140 out of 240 here, then your target in English becomes 80, right? So to get to 220, and 220, 230 will put you into that zone where you will be in with a strong chance. But of course, if you are able to hit, there are two things that will happen when you do a mock test. One thing will happen that you are hitting 220 very easily. If that's happening, then your target should move to 250, 260, because ultimately in your final selection, your aptitude exam, the IPMAT exam, has a weightage. So you want to make sure that you can maximize your score in the IPMAT. I think 65% weightage for IIM Indore, and something similar will be there for Rohtak. They keep changing it. But why will you score less there? That's one part of it.
Yeah.
And
this is the weightage.
Yeah, there's 45% weightage here. Yeah, so this keeps changing from time to time, but this is the current weightage that they have given. 45% aptitude test. So why will you not score 250 if you can? The other thing might be that you are able to score 170, 180 easily, but not able to get to 220. Then you need to do a little bit of practice. You'll have to go back to a chapter, do more. You'll have to see what question types are hurting you solving your this thing. And during your test phase, you'll have to then come back to the analysis of that test. And once you identify, okay, this is the question type, or this is the chapter that is creating a problem for me, then you come back to that chapter and do a little bit more in that chapter. So any chapter you revisit and you solve 50 to 100 questions on that chapter, वो chapter तुम्हारा improve होना ही है ना? So just take a pace when you're talking about preparation. If you're in a two month preparation time frame, June अभी पता नहीं June में होगा नहीं exam. अगर नहीं होगा तो अच्छा ही है, it's a boon for you. So if you're 1 to 2 month time frame, and of course the other exams like DU JAT and all the other exams that you'll take, they're all on similar lines. So if you prepare for one, you'll be prepared for all of them, including SAT and all also. So one approach you can take is to actually say that, okay, I'll do 3 days, one chapter. So first you study the theory. If you're joining our course, then we'll give you the videos in which you can self-pace your preparation also for all the major chapters. So you do 3 days per chapter where you study the videos of the chapter, and then you go into the solving of the questions of the chapter, 100 questions, 150 questions, not taking more than 3 days. So if you keep a pace of 3 days per chapter, so roughly 50 to 60 days में तुम्हारा preparation complete हो जाएगा. अगर long term में जा रहे हो, long term preparation में, तब then you obviously will take a longer time and you'll go deeper into every chapter and every question type. And there'll be a lot of reading, etc., also for improving English, etc. That will also be there.
And that's for long term,
Fine.
obviously, because Abhi, we cannot focus too much on reading and all that. You can just focus on solving if we have to give the exam in June or July. But if the exam gets postponed, then you can treat it as a semi long term, as a midterm preparation, and focus on the things that you did not do. So just you can just extend your preparation. Now, for those who are asking that they don't have our books, where can they prepare from? So for English, Word Power Made Easy is okay for vocabulary based questions, but it will not cover everything. If you have it, you can do. Vocabulary.com is a good website. You can practice from there also. And other sites, free online sites are there. The SAT sites are also there. You can practice your comprehension and verbal.
Is that you will need some questions for every question type.
Yeah.
And the question bank should be covering all kinds of questions, and and various difficulty levels on that type. So that is important. So it's better to take the books if you don't have it, and it will, I mean, as I said, only cover the easier parts of it. Even reading comprehension, you don't need to solve level 3 reading comprehension.
No, not even
Level
level
1 should.
Level 1 is enough. Level 1 is
Okay.
enough.
I'll ask this question, RC, what level should we practice from our books? I think level 1 should be enough. I had written level 1 and 2, but level 1 should be enough.
Level 1 is good enough for comprehension, because inference एक ही दो question रहेगा out of the 6 questions. The mostly they will be direct questions, main ideas, tone, and all those simple questions which are there.
Right. Okay, so that's yeah. I mean, Rishita, if you're going for CAT for IPMAT this year, then you should not read much. But if you're going for IPMAT next year, then reading will be a very important part of it.
Definitely.
Right.
So for reading, you can go for passages from the Hindu, the editorials, etc. That will help you.
So,
the Hindu and the Economist magazine, if you can get access, that will be good. So
it also increases general awareness and knowledge for other challenges in life. So you should improve your reading anyway.
Yeah.
It should be later, and if you want to come into the CAT, this is a good time to start reading and improving your quality of ability to understand. Because a lot of people, when they prepare for CAT last 6 months, it's too short a time for them to change their ability to read, right? So we have got 2 courses on IPMAT. One course is a short-term course, and the other course is a 1-year course. So you'll be contacted about both these courses by counselors in the next couple of days. So you can discuss with them, and we'll also offer some kind of sign-up discount based on the fact that you attended this webinar. So we'll make sure that our counselors offer you that also. And the mock test series, we don't have a mock test series separately that we provide, but yes, to our students we provide a mock test series. Okay. Ananya says, important question, how to revisit the chapters if you're scoring less in mocks. So Ananya, if you're scoring less in mocks, you will find, as I said, there'll be 2 stories in mocks. One is we start a batch, I think, every 15th of the month. Most probably around 15th you'll get a batch. I'm not very sure of the exact date. These counselors will tell you about the batch start dates. So as I said, there will be two kinds of stories in your mocks. One story will be that you start scoring 220 to 30 very easily. Then the focus has to be to push it up. The other story will be you're scoring 170, 180. Then you have to look at what is constraining your score. And if it's a chapter in maths, if you can identify 4 or 5 question types on the chapter, there are only 2 things you can do. The only 2 things you can do on the chapter. One is you can go back and resolve all the questions and make sure that whatever question bank you pick up, if you're solving my LOD 1 and let's say the first half of the LOD 2 of every chapter, then make sure that you solve it two times at least. First focus 3 days पहले 3 दिन में कर लो. 3 days पर if you're going for this year's exam, 3 days per chapter का focus तो रहेगा तुम्हारा. उसके बाद once you finish all these 10 days before the exam, 20 days before the exam, or let's say you finish 10 chapters in 30 days, and then as you start going from the 11th to the 28th chapter, तो बाकी chapters जब करोगे, उस time पहले 10 chapter को resolve करना start करोगे. जब resolve करोगे, तो वही questions resolve करने तो उतना time नहीं लगेगा. अगर पहले बार में 4-5 घंटे लगे थे तुमको, typically LOD 1 will require you 4-5 hours to finish it off. If you took 4-5 hours to do LOD 1, you will take maybe 2 hours second time because most of the questions you've solved on your own, right? Yeah, so we have these 2 courses coming up. We already running some people already studying with us for both IPMAT 2021 as well as IPMAT 2022. You can start off with those classes. Okay. Yeah, Asta, if you're going for class 12th, you can prepare in the vacation, and you can also, I mean, see what you can do is you split your time, maybe 8 to 10 hours per week. If you're studying 40-50 hours a week for boards, so 8 to 10 hours a week to IPMAT का preparation में देगा. बहुत ज़्यादा करने की जरूरत नहीं, but you'll have to continue doing it. ठीक है? Yes, somebody will contact you about the course in the next couple of days on phone and on email also. So you can come in and join that course.
all right.
Yeah, classes will be live. Both will be there.
So
Concept classes will both be recorded.
and books for which you so the VRC for CAT, is the book which covers everything for IPMAT for English. Actually, we just do the level 1 and the whole of vocabulary section. Your everything will get covered, Anubhav. So you don't have to do anything extra. It's called as Verbal Ability and Reading Comprehension for CAT. That's the book's name. You can just Google it. It's available on Amazon and Flipkart everywhere. The ninth edition is the latest one. Either the eighth or the, if you have the eighth, you might have brothers or sisters who are giving the CAT. They might have the eighth. So eighth or ninth, दोनों में से कोई भी है तो चलेगा. You can, go for that. Okay, but if you're buying new, then buy the ninth one.
Then there's a quantitative aptitude for CAT also. उसका 9th edition भी आने वाला है इसी month. So if you're going for next year's exam, then wait for buying it. Buy it at the end of the month or early June. And DI, data interpretation and logical reasoning books are also there. So they'll also cover all you need to do. If you just do these 4 books, you are sorted out.
I think all these chapters are there in the DILR book also.
Yeah, they all.
Right. So.
Yeah. So I hope you enjoyed the session. All of you, any other questions?
Yes, the concept classes will be taken, Jatin. The concept and the practice sessions will be taken. So we have got a lot of experienced faculty who will be helping you out with that. Doubt clearing sessions, etc., will also be held.
You can do the 7th edition of quantitative aptitude. It'll work. 8th edition will also work. Okay. Mocks का sources online ही लेना पड़ेगा प्रेम. You'll have to look for. Just keep looking for all the institutes that offer coaching. They'll give you some mocks or the other. So the other, does English speaking skills matter and how to improve it in a year? Same question from Gautam, how to prepare for PI, very hesitant in English speaking. So can you answer that, Meenakshi? I think it's your area.
What you can do is start with the mirror practice, or I mean, normally we used to say that when we did not have the laptops with the camera, but now you can just have your phone or your laptop on a stand on a camera on and just start speaking. Sit in front of it and start speaking. Common questions like describe yourself, what are your long-term, short-term goals, what are your strengths and weaknesses, why you want to go for this course, why you want to go to IIM Indore, or why you want to go to IIM Rohtak or IIM in Jammu or whatsoever college. So see the college website, see why they are offering the course. So why you want to join this course will be an answer that you can get from their website only. What are your long-term, short-term goals? Short-term goals will be that I want to do this course and I don't want to waste my time, so I want to do this integrated program. This will give me a total focus right from my graduation to my post graduation. So the 5 years I want to spend in your college so as to learn as much as I can about XYZ things that you will talk about. All right, so these are your long term, short term goals. Long term you talk about working in the industry and things like that. And your strengths and weaknesses, at least five strengths, weaknesses. Make sure that you think about them. And also describe yourself will not just be about your school and college. Describe yourself will be about what you want to do in life, what you are as a person, and your qualities, your achievements, etc., your learnings. All that will be part of your describe yourself. So do mirror practice daily and try to speak out and short sentences and make your points. Don't mug up sentences because you will be forgetting them. That's something that you need to keep in mind for your PI.
Also feel atmosphere around yourself. Read only English newspapers.
Yeah.
Listen only to English podcasts or video or audios or videos. Don't go to your mother tongue, because it's very convenient to continue listening to your mother tongue.
Yeah.
But you change. So the more English you take in, the more English you'll be able to give.
You'll have to surround yourself with the English inside out, as in reading and listening. Those are the two input, or even watching if you're watching something. So that's something that you have to do. And shorter sentences, like I'm teaching you, you are listening to me. Short sentences, you'll not require heavy words in that. So make shorter sentences. That makes speaking English much easier. They are not looking for fancy language. They are just looking, can you communicate what you want to say? That's all. For that, the 10th, 12th level English is more than enough for you. Just know how to speak out very short, simple sentences telling your answer. That's it. That's what you'll have to prepare for. Okay, we don't have to be Shashi Tharoor. Even for CAT, preparation, we don't have to be that when we talk about that. So for your PI, just simple sentences in English about yourself. That's what you'll have to need to prepare about. Okay. So I think we've answered most of the important questions that were there. And
thank you everybody for attending. And as I said, somebody will contact you about courses.
Yes, about courses, etc. contact you, and they'll give you the deals and all also. So, and otherwise, if you're preparing on your own also, please stay focused. That's very, very important. So we'll see you soon. Bye bye.
Yes,
Take care.
and do a little bit, do a little bit every day.
Definitely.
Right? Thank you, everybody.
God
Thank you
bless.
so much. Bye bye.
God bless and all the best. Bye bye.